the wistful notes of Yesterday, a song that speaks to longing and regret. But behind Sir Paul McCartney's legendary ballads lies a real-life heartbreak far more dramatic than any melody could convey. Paul's marriage to Heather Mills promised a fairy tale second chance, but it unraveled into a chaotic courtroom circus. With allegations of greed, betrayal, and shattered trust, their love story became one of the most explosive divorces in modern history. Buckle up, because this saga is anything but harmonious. Heather Mills, from tragedy to triumph. Heather Mills's story began as a tale of resilience. Born into a working-class family in the north of England, her early life was anything but idyllic. At just 9, her mother left, and by 13, her father was imprisoned, leaving young Heather to raise her siblings. Her teenage years were marked by hardship, from sleeping rough to surviving on her wits. A brief stint in the jewelry business ended with a probation sentence for theft, but Heather never let life's blows keep her down for long. By her 20s, Heather was modeling, gaining attention for her striking looks. However, her life took a devastating turn in 1993 when a collision with a police motorcycle left her with a prosthetic leg. Instead of retreating from public life, she turned the tragedy into a platform for advocacy, launching charities and campaigns to help other amputees. Her path to fame wasn't without controversy. Heather's claims about her past, including dramatic stories of abuse and captivity, were frequently called into question. Former acquaintances disputed her accounts, with some alleging she had fabricated or exaggerated key moments of her life. Despite the murky details of her backstory, Heather became a household name for her charity work and media appearances. It was during this rise to prominence in 1999, at the Pride of Britain Awards, that she caught the eye of one of the most famous men in the world, Sir Paul McCartney. And with that fateful introduction, the stage was set for a romance that would captivate, and later scandalize, the public. The fairy tale beginning. Heather Mills and Paul McCartney's romance began like something out of a movie. The former Beatle, still reeling from the loss of his beloved wife Linda to cancer, was captivated when he first saw Heather at the Pride of Britain Awards in 1999. With her translucent red top and confident demeanor, Heather commanded attention. Paul, who was presenting an award in Linda's memory, couldn't help but ask, "Who's that?" After their introduction, Paul wasted no time. Days later, Heather found a message on her answering machine. The two met, and Paul was immediately taken with Heather's passionate activism. By summer, they were inseparable. Heather soon became a fixture in Paul's life, accompanying him on romantic trips and family gatherings. But not everyone in Paul's inner circle was convinced. His family, including his fashion designer daughter Stella McCartney, reportedly viewed Heather with suspicion. Stella, who had been extremely close to Linda, allegedly clashed with Heather early on. According to Heather, Stella was jealous and actively tried to sabotage their relationship. Despite the friction, Paul was smitten. Heather brought light back into his life, pulling him out of the grief that had consumed him after Linda's death. The couple announced their engagement in 2001, with Paul presenting Heather with a stunning sapphire and diamond ring. "I'm the luckiest man in the world," Paul declared. In 2002, the pair tied the knot in an extravagant ceremony at Castle Leslie in Ireland. The guest list included celebrities, dignitaries, and royals, but some notable absences, Paul's son James and adopted daughter Heather, hinted at ongoing family tensions. For a time, the newlyweds appeared blissfully happy, jet-setting around the world and attending high-profile events. Yet cracks in the fairy tale soon began to show. Behind the smiles and public displays of affection, a storm was brewing, one that would unravel in a bitter and highly publicized divorce just a few years later. The cracks begin to show. For all its glossy beginnings, Paul McCartney and Heather Mills's marriage soon began to unravel, revealing the cracks beneath their seemingly perfect facade. By the early 2000s, tensions were mounting, and their once idyllic relationship was becoming increasingly volatile. One of the early signs of trouble came during Paul's North American tour in 2002. Though the couple often appeared happy in public, behind closed doors, their arguments grew more frequent and explosive. During a stop in Miami, their fighting escalated to the point where hotel staff had to intervene. Heather's engagement ring was even thrown from the window in the heat of an argument, prompting staff to scour the grounds with metal detectors to recover it. As time passed, their differences became more apparent. Heather reportedly felt overshadowed by Paul's fame and resented how the public and his family compared her to Linda McCartney. In a now infamous interview, Heather vented her frustration, saying, "I am married to the most famous person in the world, and that is very unfortunate for me." Their relationship dynamics also raised eyebrows. Heather allegedly grew increasingly critical of Paul, accusing him of being set in his ways and unwilling to compromise. Meanwhile, Paul's family, particularly his daughter Stella, remained steadfast in their skepticism of Heather. Their clashes reportedly left Paul stuck in the middle, trying to mediate between the two most important women in his life. Despite the mounting tension, Paul appeared determined to make the marriage work. The couple welcomed their daughter Beatrice in 2003, and Paul hoped the arrival of their child might help stabilize their tumultuous relationship. However, even Beatrice's birth couldn't heal the growing rift between them. By the mid-2000s, their arguments became increasingly public. Heather accused Paul of being overly controlling and resistant to her ambitions, while Paul reportedly struggled with Heather's constant demands for more, whether it was money, attention, or control. Heather's extravagant lifestyle and alleged temper also began to dominate headlines, further complicating their already strained marriage. The marriage that had once seemed like a fresh start for Paul McCartney was quickly turning into a battleground, setting the stage for one of the most dramatic and bitter celebrity divorces of the 21st century, the courtroom spectacle. By 2006, Paul McCartney and Heather Mills's marriage had reached its breaking point. Their separation was anything but amicable, and the ensuing divorce battle quickly turned into a media frenzy. Heather filed for divorce, citing unreasonable behavior on Paul's part, which led to explosive accusations and a courtroom showdown that played out like a Hollywood drama. Heather didn't hold back in her claims. She accused Paul of being physically abusive, constantly drunk, and smoking cannabis during their marriage, allegations that Paul vehemently denied. Despite her attempts to paint herself as the victim, her testimony was described by the presiding judge as inconsistent and less than candid. Her decision to fire her legal team and represent herself only added to the circus-like atmosphere of the proceedings. The media, already skeptical of Heather, latched onto her every move. In one infamous moment during the final settlement hearing, Heather poured a jug of water over the head of Paul's lawyer, Fiona Shackleton, a respected attorney who had represented the likes of Princess Diana. The incident made headlines and further tarnished Heather's already embattled public image. Initially, Heather demanded a staggering £125 million from Paul's fortune, but the judge ultimately awarded her £24.3 million, a mere fraction of what she had hoped for. The settlement also included annual payments for their daughter Beatrice's education and a nanny, but it was far from the victory Heather had anticipated. Paul, on the other hand, maintained a dignified silence throughout the proceedings, letting the facts and public opinion speak for themselves. While Heather compared herself to Princess Diana and claimed she had faced more public scrutiny than a murderer or a pedophile, the public overwhelmingly sided with Paul, viewing him as the calm and collected party in the debacle. The courtroom drama not only exposed the bitter underbelly of their relationship, but also left Heather's reputation in tatters. By the time the dust settled, the once promising union had devolved into one of the messiest divorces in celebrity history, a cautionary tale of love, fame, and fortune gone awry. And so, the fairy tale that began with a Beatles' whirlwind romance ended in one of the most contentious divorces in celebrity history. Paul McCartney walked away with his dignity intact, but not without scars, famously labeling his marriage to Heather Mills as one of the biggest mistakes of his life. Heather, meanwhile, may have gained a sizable settlement, but the cost was her public image, which was left in shambles after the courtroom spectacle. Yet, as tumultuous as their union was, it left a lasting legacy. Their daughter Beatrice, a reminder of the fleeting happiness they once shared. For Paul, it served as a painful lesson about love and trust, while for Heather, it became a springboard for reinvention, as she poured her resources into vegan ventures and skiing records. Their story is a stark reminder that love in the spotlight comes at a cost, and when things go wrong, the fallout can be as explosive as the romance itself. Whether seen as a cautionary tale or a dramatic chapter in McCartney's life, one thing's for sure: this divorce will remain etched in the annals of celebrity history as a tale of love, betrayal, and millions lost. And if you love keeping up with celebrity romances, we've got even more stories coming your way, from Hollywood's hottest new couples to the latest relationship rumors. So if you want to stay in the loop on all things love in the celebrity world, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.